my channel. Now today I'm very excited because to my left and your right, I have a YouTube friend of mine, Miss Katie Morton. Everybody round of applause.
Yay!
So Katie, to those of you that don't know, she is a, what would you call it, like a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so she's an actual therapist, and oh man, Zoe, she's chiming in. She really wants. She's like, she is a therapist.
She's like 100%, Mom.
She's licensed. I swear. Yeah, but she's a therapist, and she makes videos here on YouTube as well. And I first discovered Katie almost a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think I was searching for something around anxiety. So yeah, when I first found Katie, I think the thing that really struck me the most about you was her calm energy and her way of explaining things in a non-judgmental way. Like as a viewer, you never feel like when you're saying something like it's awkward or uncomfortable or shameful that you might have something. And I've just really appreciated that.
Good.
Watching you over the years.
That's what I hope to get across, that we're not alone. It's not weird. It's okay.
Yeah, you do a great job at it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And so I thought that this would be a really fun, not fun topic, but I just wanted to bring her on to do a tea talk because today, just like the title says, we're going to be talking about a super fun topic. Failure. Dun, dun, dun. We are drinking tea from the Tea Gardens. Katie came out to Santa Clarita. Obviously, we're in my room. So I was like, you have to go to Tea Gardens with me. So we went to Tea Gardens. What kind did you get?
I got passion fruit.
And it's really good. I got the, what did I get? Not Summer Garden. Long Island strawberry.
Yes.
I had to think about that. We show up there, I'm like, Melissa, what do I normally get here every time I'm here?
I pictured it to be pink or something. It really cracked me up.
You would have assumed. I had wanted to talk about this for a while because I've had a few things, like the topic of failure in general has really felt straight in front of my face in a couple ways in the last year. One of those ways has been with work, with a project that I embarked on that, depending on how you want to perceive it, kind of failed. And so that's been in my head a lot, like what does that mean? What am I taking away from this? Also the concept of like when you actually know like it's time to give something up versus like
versus hanging on to it and like white knuckling it, hoping, praying that it would figure itself out.
Yeah, and then also from a health perspective, if you guys have been following my videos pretty closely here in the last year, I have had, and I don't think I mentioned this today. We talked so much about health today, but I don't think I talked about this part. I have like I have some structural problems. So
like alignment?
Yes. I wore a heel lift for a short leg for 16 years, and then they found out last year I didn't actually have a short leg.
Holy moly.
I had like a hip surgery, all this stuff. So last year I kind of embarked on this journey where I was like, I'm just going to put a bunch of time and a bunch of money, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to deal with it. And it was kind of the first time in my life where I came face to face with like, wow, you really don't have control over everything, because I threw time and money at this situation and nothing really changed.
It didn't get better.
Yeah, so the concept of failing has just kind of been in my head a lot in the last few months. So that's the reason I wanted to talk about it, and I thought that she would be a great person to bring in on this because of your kind, cool-headed demeanor that you have. So I'm going to open up questions that I got on Twitter.
Perfect.
And I'm just going to pick a question, and I'll let you start since I've just been blabbering for the first like 4 minutes. This is from Benji. This question relates to exactly what we were just talking about. I think that's a good question to start with.
Yeah.
Okay, so to any of you who are like avid YouTube viewers, Benji Travis of Benji and Judy submitted a question that says, when is failure a sign to reconsider your path versus failure just being a part of it?
It's a really good question. It's tricky because it's almost the idea of like, is it like something that I've done? Do I need to keep holding on hoping it gets better, or do I let it go?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with there's a couple of components. The first being, how are we talking to ourselves about it? Because a lot of it's like the self-talk around it. Is it something that's happened that you have no control over, that you can't make better?
Okay.
Then it's time to let go. So I think taking time to consider,
like if you have any control over the situation or not.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Which is hard. It's really hard. Like it sounds like such a simple thing, but it's really hard to recognize and accept that you don't have control. I think that's one of the hardest things to learn as a human in general. Yeah. It's like I can't control what other people do. I can't control what they say or what they respond to, but I can control what I do, and what I might have to do is let go.
So for me to grasp that, because I'm trying to get my head around it. So let's say in my situation, like having a business venture or something that I'm trying to build, and then I get to a point where it's like, it's been hard. How do you know when to give up? I guess I'm trying to relate.
You're the one in control of it, right?
I guess I'm trying to understand what you're saying. I'm trying to get that thought. So how do you know? Like, what would you relate in that example?
I think it would go back, like, because I'm in mental health, I would talk about your mental health. So if something that you're doing is getting in the way of you living your life, and it's to the point where it's making you unhappy, and it's not getting easier, and it's not getting better no matter how much you try, at that point you're going to have to let go of it, because it's actually doing damage.
Yeah. Is there a point, like, how long do you stick through that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that's happened that gives you, like, a light at the end of the tunnel, a real solid light.
Okay.
Not a, like, I could magically dream it, because we can all magically dream.
Yeah.
Like, I might win the lottery. I might get the best deal of my life.
Yeah, I'm great at magically dreaming, so I understand that.
Same. But if there's no light,
actual light,
then I think it's time to let it go.
That is a hard one, man.
It is.
That's honestly always been probably the hardest thing for me with failure, is knowing when to let go, because I think my brain, whether this is true or not, I automatically assume that a struggle is part of whatever it is that I'm doing. And I feel like that's true to a degree. I don't know how you feel about that. But also it's like, but what's the tipping point?
Yeah.
You
and
know?
I think that's when it gets detrimental to your health.
Okay.
Mental health and health, I like tie in together, because there's the same healthy mind, healthy body. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what you have to consider, because everyone's going to be different. There's no line I can draw in the sand and be like, oh, if you've been doing this for 6 months, get out, Nikki. That's enough. But it might
See, here I am clawing for a timeline. I'm all, what's the timeline, Katie?
How much longer?
Tell me when to give up. I don't know. No, but you're right. And I feel like that even goes into the element of control. It is like wanting an answer. Like, when do I get out? When do I get out?
Yep.
And you're right, I don't think that there is, like, a blatant answer.
Yeah, it's different for everybody.
And even mental health, too. Like, sometimes I feel like I'll go through these seasons, but it's like, what is the breaking point? Am I okay being a little bit crazy feeling for a little while for the light at the end of the tunnel?
Because everybody can manage it differently. Like, we all have our different limits. How long can we be stressed or anxious or overwhelmed? Because we can manage for a while. Like, we all got through finals at some point, or testing in some, capacity, or planning a wedding. That's really stressful. Or any kind of thing like that. I think something also to consider, part of Benji's question, just to make sure we're answering all the way, is like, failures can be part of it, but I think it's how you frame it. Because failure is such a big word, and I wouldn't use that to describe a slip up. Like, I talk about that a lot with, like, mental health, or if you struggle with an eating disorder, or self-injury, or depression, and one day you just don't get out of bed. That's not the end of the world. So we're going to have setbacks and slip ups. Yeah. But that's not a failure. Setbacks and slip ups are part of the process. Failure is when, like, you can't move forward. It's done.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah, that's an interesting... You mentioned something earlier that my therapist has actually said to me before about having this black and white mentality. And even, like, the days that I have anxiety-filled days, or it's a hard day, I don't get as much done, I will tend to slip into that, like, oh, man, I failed. It's versus, oh, no, this is just a day. This is just a setback. Like, you just pick up and go tomorrow. So
just a moment versus throwing it all in the garbage.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, ultimately, I think what we said before is true, is how do you really know? You don't.
No.
Because it is part of it. I mean, I'm having a situation in my life right now that was a struggle for me work-wise for, like, the last 3 years. And the whole time it was very, when you say your mental health being, like, what's the word? I'm so tongue-tied right now.
No, but have your mental health...
be compromised.
Yeah.
I guess that's the word.
Perfect word.
I feel like my mental health has been so compromised in this one area from this one thing for, like, the last 3 years. And it's just now come to, like, a resolution that's like, wow, it literally fully resolved. Wow. And so in a case like this, it's interesting to think, like, was it worth it? Should I have let go of it before to get that mental health back? Or was it like, okay, I've also learned a lot about compartmentalizing things, which is something I've been working on, and hanging in there. It ended up actually, now I'm at a place where I'm like, I got everything I hoped I would get out of that, but it took 3 years.
And that's a long time.
It's a long time. And was it worth it? I don't know.
That's a decision you have to make.
Yeah.
Because, like, mental health for everyone's different. Like, because for me, it'll spill over into my relationships, and it can make things difficult. And also just spill over into, like, my overall well-being. But there are things we can do to compensate for that. Like, taking time for ourselves and self-care days and stuff like that to get us through. But you'd have to...
and it definitely did spill in. I mean, that's the thing. That's why I'm going, like, was it worth it?
Yeah, it might not have been worth it.
It might not have been.
Even though now it's resolved.
You're like, even though it's resolved now. I also feel, though, like, I did learn a lot during that time, and we worked a lot on, like, okay, well, what's going to happen moving forward? Because I know I'm going to encounter more things like that. how do you compartmentalize? When do you let something go? Like, it's been interesting to walk through that with a therapist.
Yeah. That's why we should all be in therapy.
Yeah, I'm very pro therapy.
Yay!
Okay, so let's see here. We have another question here from, all these questions were on Twitter, by the way. And this is from @SadieFrameness. And she said, when do you know when you have failed? Or what do you do when you know you have failed?
I think my first word of advice for this would to be, like, take time and allow yourself to grieve the loss. Because good. I think sometimes we move quickly. We're like, oh, that didn't work. And we automatically go into negative thinking, like, I'm terrible, I'm stupid, I'm worthless. Why didn't this work? I did something wrong. I'm wrong. Whatever we might tell ourselves. Instead, allow yourself to be sad. Yeah. Like, sometimes we've worked really hard on something. It doesn't turn out. Like, especially even as YouTubers, I can speak, we take a lot of risks and we put ourselves out there. And sometimes you put out a video and it doesn't do well. Yeah. And people can be upset.
Yeah, the feedback might not be great.
Exactly. And so I think it's good to, like, take the time to grieve it and to be sad about it. But then know that you can get back up and you can keep going forward. And that's, like, all the self-talk. So then the next step would be, like, after you've grieved it, start talking positively about, hey, I took a chance. That was amazing. That was really scary for me and I did it anyways. Or, hey, I had hoped it to turn into this. Maybe there's something else I can do. And instead of going into that, like, I'm stupid, I'm lazy, I should never have done this, blah, blah, blah. So that we can get out of it. Because there's actually... Going back, we were talking of growing up in church. And one of my favorite things that, I forget what I was even at, but it was some kind of talk or some sermon. And they were saying, like, why do we fall down in life, in real life? Like, walking on the street, if we trip, we don't lay there.
That's
right?
so good.
We don't just, like, lay on the ground like, oh.
That's
like,
so
people
good.
be like, what the heck is wrong with
Get
you?
up and keep walking, lady. That's so good.
But so why do we lay down emotionally for so long?
Wow, what a great
just, like,
physical analogy.
Yeah, and so I'm always like, I think, what would I do physically? I'd probably trip and fall and I'd look around like, maybe they'd get me and I'd up and go and pretend nothing happened, right? Yeah. And so we can actually do that emotionally. If we don't get ourselves caught in that, like, I'm stupid, I'm lazy, whatever, negative talk, we can be like, oh, that was kind of embarrassing. Oops, that was bad. Get out of here. Like,
keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I love that. I feel like having that physical analogy, that's just a really great, I like that. One thing that also helps for me, because sometimes I will go down that path of, like, I'm stupid, why did I do that? I tend to go really fast into the negative, just feeling like crap about myself. And one thing that's really, like, helps me when I get really, really down is I like to keep copies of people's autobiographies around. I listen to a lot of Audible. I hardly ever read. That's why working with Audible is perfect for me, because I'm like, literally, I don't read. I only listen to books.
Yeah.
But people's stories and the stuff that they have overcome, you forget, even when you've read autobiographies,
totally,
you forget how much crap people have gone through. And so sometimes I feel like I'm quick to fall into my own world of, like, really honestly, like, poor me, I'm so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then you start listening to other people's stuff, and it's a very tangible way to be like, oh my gosh, that actually happened to that person, and they survived.
Yeah.
And not only I feel like does it help pick me back up and keep me going, like, this happened to someone, look at what they did, they kept going, I'm gonna keep going. It also takes the pressure off of yourself. Like, it's kind of bad, but you're like, oh, that didn't happen to me. Like,
totally, it hasn't been that bad.
It hasn't been that bad. I feel way better. And so it helps with that. And there was something else. I don't know. It really helps me to see other people's stories. Oh, and I almost feel like it helps mentally prepare me for the future too, because sometimes things will happen to people in these books that I'm like, I didn't even think that could happen to someone, but that makes sense how that played out. And you can empathize and kind of mentally shift your perspective.
Yeah, it gives it perspective. So you're like, wow, if they can get through it, I can too. Or wow, I can keep going. And it's really motivating.
My Myers-Briggs. I don't know how you feel about. Do you like Myers-Briggs?
I've done it, and I actually got asked yesterday what I was, and I completely forget what it was.
Oh man!
Like, I took it. I think I'm an ENTJ.
Oh,
is that a thing?
That would make sense. I'm an ENFP.
Oh, maybe it might be. Oh, I'm meant for retake.
I still don't know what all the letters stand for. I've read it like a million times.
I've taken it a million times. And it's funny, they say you should take it every few years because it changes.
Isn't that interesting? Actually, the person that I took it with was Catrific. I know you did that video. Yeah. She's the one. I'm glad I took it with a person, because when I took the test online, I was with her. It didn't fully resonate with me. And she's like, if it doesn't 100% resonate, it's not you.
It's not right.
And she was like, let me pull one up for you that I think you are. And she pulled it up. I was like,
no, yeah, like speaking to your soul.
Yes.
Yeah, I took mine with Hannah.
You did?
She was like, I want to know what it is.
Yes.
I forgot.
So I'll help you. Yeah, they, an ENFP, one of my celebrity twins is Walt Disney, but I love his biography so much.
Interesting.
Because the stuff that he encountered building something. I actually think that everybody should totally read his biography, regardless of if you're in the arts or trying to build something, because I think it's fascinating to see what happens when you try to really go for something and when you fail, because the amount of failures that he had over the course of his lifetime, I mean, so many, and like big things and huge teams of people leaving him and ideas that he really pushed for that fell through, and how far into his life those failures happened. Like, oh my God, like that just happened, and I'm realizing in the book he's like 65 at that point. I'm like, what? Or however old he was.
Yeah, but we're all gonna have failures along the way, and I think it's like framing it in like, if I don't try, I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's not, that's the thing that keeps us frozen, is like the fear of failure. Instead of thinking like the potential success or excitement. Yeah. You know, it's like, again, it's like framing negative talk, positive talk. Instead of fear of failure, we should be like, I'm excited for the potential success.
Yes. You know? My therapist said that to me the other day, because this thing that's happening, that's kind of coming to a resolution, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like scared, but I feel like it's potentially going to be exciting. She's like, yes, it really could be exciting. Like, it's okay to get excited about it. But you get scared after you've failed or fallen to get excited again. Yeah.
It's like making you vulnerable, kind of.
Yes. I was watching one of your videos, and I don't remember, someone asked you if it was normal to be afraid of getting well.
Yeah, to feel well.
And you were saying, yes, it was. And it kind of makes me think about like the same thing with failure and success, like the fear of possibly envisioning succeeding, because it's like, but I could fail. Yeah. This might not happen.
No, totally. And I think it's a lot of vulnerability. There's a lot of shame that could be involved if you do fail. Like, there's a lot tied up in that. And I think it's very normal to, in the same way we fear failure, we fear being better, being all good, because then we have so much to lose, you know, in the same way we can, it's interesting how we like protect ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that, just hope is scary. Like, having hope, I feel like that was a big thing with my journey physically that I'm still in. Is there have been times where it's like, I'm scared. I'm like, I don't even want to be hopeful anymore, because I'm like sick of having hope and having it not come to fruition. But if you don't have the hope, then you don't keep moving forward, and you're completely taking any option of success off the table.
Yeah, because hope is motivating. Yeah. And we need it to survive, really.
Yeah. I definitely am someone that I'll struggle with feeling paralyzed. Like, what do I even do next? And we were talking about self-talk at lunch, and my therapist has told me a lot that when you feel paralyzed and you feel like you can't move forward because of fear of failure or whatever, that it's really good to literally talk yourself through each basic step you're taking. Even like for a while I had a fear of traveling, and my therapist would be like, literally talk to yourself like, okay, all you need to do, get out of the car, get out your suitcase. Great. Now walk over to the door. Awesome. Now walk into the line. Like, you just literally talk yourself through each step. I guess that just made me think of it because you were talking about being paralyzed.
Yeah, and it can also, like, preemptively, if you aren't in the scary situation, like you don't have to travel today, you can do, I mean, I have a video about exposure therapy, but that's essentially what helps also, is like envisioning yourself going there. Driving to the airport, like if you're really frightened, you can drive to the airport like you're going to go somewhere, like you're going to get out. You don't? Yeah. You drive on by. You're like, I can do this. I can make it this far.
Windows down, I'm good.
Yeah, you breathe, you calm down, you know, recenter yourself and keep going. Because a lot of times with anxiety, we will feel the anxiety around a certain situation, like let's just stick with travel. And so we won't travel. We'll slowly stop traveling because it's so anxiety provoking. We'll turn down things, or we'll put it off. And so that builds and the anxiety builds. But if we slowly push ourselves back into it, our brain is so adaptive. As a human, we're so adaptive that it's slowly like, I guess it's not bad. I guess it's really not that stressful. So in a way, by avoiding it, we just make it worse.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm like saying a really obvious point because you literally just said it. But I guess to put a little cap on that, I feel like it is the same thing with fear of failure. It's like just by doing things, you naturally start to get less scared of doing it. Yeah. Like you just like, okay, I'm used to just going out there and just doing it. I just do it. I just took care of it. I did it.
Totally. Like, you people who audition. One of my friends does auditions, and she was like,
sorry.
It's okay. And she just said, I was so grateful that I'd gone as a younger person, like in her 20s, because she's like, I was told no all the time. And like, I got over it. And she goes, people who've like waited and waited until their 40s or 50s to finally go on an audition are like totally ripped to shreds. Yes. When they're like, oh, you're not the right fit. And she's like, I'm so used to it. I'm like, whatever. Next. Yeah,
on to the next audition. Next. Bye, not my gig.
Yeah. So just keep going.
Such great. It's true.
It's just, it's hard. Easier said than done, though, also.
Yeah, it is.
It takes practice.
But I feel like it's good, like, even a video like this or just hearing people talking about it it helps because, when you're in it, it's so hard.
Yeah, we can feel frozen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this next question is from @BYE Fatima, and she says, so she worded, what if failure, you keep on failing no matter how hard you work on it? How can we take a positive vibe from it? Yeah, I think we get the gist of that.
Yeah, so she's asking, like, if you keep failing and failing no matter how hard you work, how can you take something positive from it?
Yeah.
The truth of it is that I think it's the self-talk. It's like back to, which I'm sure that my viewers are like, you always say that, but it's so true. Like,
so true.
The conversation we have with ourselves, there's one of my favorite memes.
Gotta love those memes.
And who knows, it could be Buddha who said, I don't know who said it.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Dalai Lama.
Someone real smart.
Exactly. But it says, like, be careful with the conversation you have with yourself because it's your communication with the universe. And I think that's, I don't know, that like gets me because it truly, like what we're going to say to ourselves, we're going to end up putting out there because we can't help it.
Yeah.
You know, like some people are filled with negativity, so you can't help but make bad choices and be negative and be angry and, you know, irritable.
Yeah.
And so I think even if we have failure after failure, the positive thing you take from it is that I tried. I did my best. I took a chance. You know, I think that a lot of times we don't give ourselves credit, or I worked really hard. It wasn't quite the right fit, or I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's a good one too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're doing. I think taking this positive spin on the fact that you even tried is what you should focus on.
Yeah.
We're all going to fail. Not everything works out perfectly. Not everything's meant for us.
Yes.
I always think like it's important to recognize like
that's so good. I just had that conversation with my mom yesterday about how sometimes it literally isn't if you had done better, if you had tried harder, it literally wasn't meant for you. So like you kind of have to sometimes step aside and be like, not my time.
Totally.
This is this person's time.
Yeah.
I just derailed your thought.
No, but that's exactly it. Like I think it's important. You could even compare it to like relationships, like friendships, or like, you know, finding a mate. Like I always think, well, all those failed sad times, you're like, oh my God, he broke up with me. This is never going to get better. It wasn't meant for me.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Or like that song, God Bless the Broken
Yes,
Road.
the
It's like,
broken road.
it was meant to lead you to that person.
Rascal Flatts.
Rascal Flatts with all his wisdom.
So wise.
No, it's funny though, the thing you said about the universe, because my therapist has said to me before, it's different wording, but the same kind of vibe. She's like, people who self-talk, in my opinion, this is what she said, have a better relationship with God. So it's the same kind of thing. She's like, they're just more connected, more aware.
Because you're more connected to yourself, aware of yourself versus just beating yourself up all the time.
Yeah. And I'll say too, and this is where it gets kind of tricky and kind of brings us back to what we were talking about before, like how do you know when to fail, or when to let go of something? But sometimes things just take a while to come to fruition too. So sometimes it is like, well, you're on that learning curve. Like you just, you kind of got to let it be, let it play. I mean, it's like how long is someone in college, which I know is different, but like, am I making a really stupid comparison here?
No, you're totally making sense. I was just trying to think of like framing it in a way to like, so we can express it clearly so you know what we're talking about. Because I think like there's a difference between something being really detrimental to you.
That's true.
Being extremely hard. And then something that just takes time and is like creating a YouTube channel. That's something that you put a lot of work into and you continue to like, you know, blood, sweat, and tears through it. And it's not like immediately you know, you're reaching people and you get to express and help others, but it comes with time. So there's things but I just feel like even if you're persevering and you keep going, it shouldn't be detrimental to you. It can be hard, like we can be working on it, but you shouldn't feel like your quality of life has gone down, like way down.
Yeah. Now here's a question
that's the difference.
I have for you as a therapist.
Yes.
And I've kind of, I think, danced around this topic with my therapist before, but I don't know if we've ever really dove into this. I always have this paranoia that no matter what I'm doing in life, I would find a way to just make it like difficult. Like I just feel like any situation I'm in, I'm going to automatically perceive it as really stressful. I'm going to see all the stresses in the situation. I'm going to get super anxious. So sometimes I don't know if that's true, but sometimes it's hard for me to tell, like, is it this? Or if I dropped my YouTube channel tomorrow and decided I just want to have kids and be a soccer mom, even though I don't really like that phrase, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to do that. I think sometimes I'm like, but who are you kidding? Because then when you do that, you're going to be just as emotionally upset about other things that are in that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know the question I'm asking. Like, how do you know?
But immediately when you started, like if she was in my office, I'd be like, Nikki, negative self-talk.
So that's the way you perceive that more, is negative self-talk.
Because instead of saying I enjoy what I do because I think you enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
I don't think you're meant to be a soccer mom.
Yeah.
Or you already would.
Okay, but I enjoy what I do, but I also get but then again, is that just tied into my anxiety?
I think it's more your anxiety. Because if you were a soccer mom, you'd probably worry about carpool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like I'd get worried about something.
Mm-hmm. So it's more about you.
Yeah, versus the situation.
Yeah, it's because the truth of it, something that I wish I had told like 16-year-old Katie is like, if you want something to happen, you're going to make it happen. You can't worry about the what ifs, I did this, or why did I do this, make this harder on myself. It's because you wanted it.
Yeah.
You made it happen. If you had any control over the situation, there's obviously going to be situations you can't control, but for the most part, we choose our destiny.
Yeah.
We make choices every day to improve or make our life harder, and you decided you want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's because you want to do it. If you want to be a soccer mom, you'd already be a soccer mom.
I know, and I do want to do it.
You're not making it harder.
I get a head trip because I'm like, man, it just, things get hard for me, but I think, like we just said, I think it's my own way of processing things. It's my anxiety that I think I process it harder.
Yeah.
I don't even know the point of where I'm going. You just made me think of that. I was like, I wonder. At Acacia B, I think that's how you say it. Yeah. And she says, what is your advice on how to get out of / move on from a failed friendship?
And that's a tricky one. Relationships can be really tricky. And I think that there's a couple components. And I'm not going to walk you through it in the order that hopefully it could take place. But I understand first thing first, you can't control other people. We can't control how they respond or react or whatever. So remind yourself of that. I remind myself of that every time I'm in a conflict or confrontation of any kind. I'm like, something my therapist told me that was so super helpful was like, you're only responsible for cleaning your side of the street.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good.
Keep that in mind. But with friends, I think the first thing is making sure that you've communicated with them. I think it's really healthy for us to at least communicate what's going on or why we can't be friends with them or what we're hurt about. Because I always think it's fair to give them a chance to explain themselves, a chance to at least talk about it. And it's good practice. We need to practice communicating.
Yeah.
I feel like fights are always born out of miscommunication.
Totally.
And so if you try to communicate, I know we can't control them, right? What if they're like a rate and they're like, I'm not going to say you, blah, blah, blah. We can't force it.
Yeah.
But we can try. And then after that, I think a lot of it is grieving the loss of the relationship. It goes back to like grieving it because you might miss them. You don't miss them now, but you miss the them that you loved then.
Yes, 100%.
And so doing that, and then also, so we've done that portion, right? We're moving through it. Then the next part is I would encourage you at that point then to spend some time journaling. I love journaling. Or typing.
I need to get better at journaling, man.
Any kind of.
My dad's been telling me that forever. He's like, honey, you need to journal.
It's really helpful. But then journaling about all the wonderful people in your life who you love and who support you so that you're reminded that you do have good relationships.
That's
and
amazing.
It does work. Because we usually tend to go black and white thinking, oh, this relationship failed. I'm terrible. No one likes me. I'm a horrible friend. Blah, 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 blah. Versus understanding like, hey, I tried. It didn't work. We outgrew each other or whatever. And these are the relationships that are important.
Yeah, I think I like the thought of journaling about the relationships that you have. I feel like in the past when I've lost certain friendships, I think I've talked about this before, that like I actually think this is common, you tell me, but like I become addicted to people. And so like when I've lost that person, it's like no one else can give me that exact same feeling, and I'm like addicted to, and it's hard to not feel just, I don't know, get stuck in that. And so that thought, I've never heard that before, about taking the time to actually write about the people that you do have in your life and why you love them. Like, I think that's just such an awesome, because I feel like you can get blind to like, I'll never have this again. This was the only person like this that will ever understand me.
Exactly.
And it's funny too, because I feel like a lot of times you're, like you said before, you're grieving that person before. They may not even be that person anymore. Which is something, a trick to learn as well.
And it's hard to like do that. I'm like going through a friendship loss now, and I'm not sad about it anymore because I've grieved it, because she really isn't the person that she was. That we're totally different now. And it wasn't like a fight. It's just like, I don't get you anymore. You don't get me. What are we supposed to talk about? And I think then for a while I was like, man, I'm a horrible friend. How can I just not have this friendship and just be okay with it? But the truth is, I tried. Yeah. And then I have these other friends who fill that void. And I think reminding yourself helps you fill that void, so you don't feel like, I'll never get that again. Oh. Yeah. And so we can be reminded that, hey, I am a good friend. People are there for me. I do have someone I can call if I need to. Yeah. Whatever it is.
I think that's so brilliant. I've never heard that before.
But it's hard. Like, still practicing it, you know.
I'm going to add one thing onto that too that I think. Maybe this is because, well, 2 points. I really liked the grieving point and I really liked the journaling point. So I don't know if this really goes along with it, but I think kind of. If you are someone who's in a position where you're like, well, who are my friends? Or I want to make more friends, or I'm feeling in this rut. I think it's good to remember, and there's a book that, Eat the Fish, Spit Out the Bones, but I think that this book has a lot of really great points. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and they talk in this book. Yeah, there's my therapist is like, there's some things I like about that book, some things not so much. But, like everything.
Yeah, take some, leave some.
Yeah, exactly. But they do a great job in that book, I think, of illustrating other people's fears, anxiety, pain, and I think that if you really are trying to, like, get more friends in your life or grow new relationships, realizing that other people get anxious and fearful, and they're also afraid of maybe developing a friendship and it not going well, or like continuing to hang out, and just keeping that in mind and reaching out to people, I think is another good thing versus like shutting down and like you were saying, oh, I'll never have another friend, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, reach out to the people that you do like, reach out to the people that you already know or you want to develop friendships with. So I don't know, I feel like slightly at the end of that sentence, I'm like, was any of this even needed to be thrown in? But I wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, at least we have it. And I think it's true, like, it's a good point to be, like, we're all in it together. We're all human.
Yeah.
So don't think that you're, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Like, don't think that you're so damaged that you can never have another relationship. Like,
yes.
We're all in it together. We're all human. We all, like, have our issues, and we, you know, have our things that we empathize and sympathize about, and, like, you can totally connect with others.
Yeah, and I'm quick to forget that, like, everyone else feels that way.
Yeah.
I'm quick to think, like, I'm just, it's me, off in the corner by myself.
And I'm so weird in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I think that's about it.
Perfect.
We're wrapping up Tea Talk. Katie and I did a video over on her channel as well. We're actually about to film that right now. What are we talking about again on your channel?
We're talking about building a better body image.
Yeah. So go over and check out her channel and subscribe to Katie. I think that she, like I said at the beginning, has just the greatest advice, the most calm nature about her. I've had a few times where I'm like having internal freakouts at my house, and I'll go on and I'll watch your videos because you do such a great job of just like calming the viewers down and helping them process through things. And like I said, just so non-judgmental, and I just really enjoy your videos. So you have to check Katie out, and I will have all of her stuff down below, including our video we're doing over there. And I will see you soon with another video and another Tea Talk at some point soon in life.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. See you on Katie's channel. Bye, guys.